Well, The Walking Dead is back in session for the new year, kicking off the second half of Season 9 just recently. Before I go into my recap and review of the mid-season premiere titled Adaptation, just a warning that this video will contain spoilers to both the mid-season premiere and what occurs in the comic during this time. So if you are not caught up at this point in the show and/or comic and do not want to know what happens, you might want to exit out of here and return when you are up to date. The episode starts off with a shot of the lifeless Paul Rovia on the ground, in case the writers needed to make it abundantly clear to the audience that this Jesus is deader than dead and will not be rising up. Darn it, I was hoping he'd be able to turn my water into wine so I can erase this mess from my memory. The group are on their toes as they are trapped in the cemetery with the newly unveiled threat known as the Whisperers. One of them manages to whisper, "You die now," very, very slowly. What was supposed to be a creepy threat just made me giggle instead of shudder. Daryl just ripped the mask off of one of you in the previous episode and you're still trying to pull off the Walkers advancing an intelligence motif? You can drop the Smart Zombies Act, Cupcake. I don't think it's going to work anymore. Michonne ushers generic characters B and C out of the cemetery as she and Daryl fight off the Walkers and any Whisperers that hide among them just in time to remove Jesus' body from the scene. Oh yeah, in case anyone missed it, Negan escaped his cell and is now freely roaming around Alexandria. He stops at the vegetable garden, plucks a tomato, and cue the Negan fangirls creaming their panties in near pristine synchronicity as he dines upon the tomato in a very suggestive manner. Well, at least Negan was kind enough to take one tomato as opposed to taking half of the entire vegetable garden. Then what I can only assume is the writers wanting to add a cheap mad slasher movie aesthetic to the show, Negan grabs a shovel and sneaks around the Grimes residence. Instead of channeling his inner Jason Voorhees and bashing in the heads of the mortal enemies that wronged him, he instead grabs Judith's pocket watch. Okay then. As Negan proceeds to climb the wall of Alexandria in broad fucking daylight, he is stopped by Judith. Standing his ground against the little Charlie's Angel in training, he tells her that Alexandria is a goddamn wonderland. Wonderland? You mean barren wasteland? I mean, seriously, where the hell is everyone? How does Alexandria not have guards around the block, especially with them holding the big cheese they went to war with many years ago captive? I know there are people that will probably say that Alexandria does not have enough manpower, but they easily could have recruited some people from some of the other communities. This is what happens when you end up killing everyone off the show and AMC is too stingy with their budget to hire a few extras to serve as Alexandrians. Good job, Gimple & Co. After some pointless back and forth, Judith ends up letting Negan go. Wow, color me shocked. Meanwhile, back at the hilltop, the community is concerned that Jesus and the rest have not returned, so Tara decides to send out a search party. Newcomer Luke volunteers to partake in a potentially perilous task. Luke is quite a likable guy, which means one thing for sure. If you're a likable newbie on The Walking Dead, odds are in favor of you becoming somebody's dinner by the end of the season. On the way back to town with the deceased Messiah in tow, the group encounter another group of walkers. Knowing what they had encountered previously, Daryl devises a swift plan. Whoa, the ill-tempered, reckless redneck who has spent the past couple of seasons muttering nothing more than a grunt actually uses his brain? Well, I'm shook! Using his trademark crossbow, he shoots the legs to determine which walkers among them are the Whisperers. After Daryl and Michonne take out most of them, the lone surviving Whisperer drops to her knees in surrender. Anyone who reads the comic will surely know who this trembling teenage girl is. There is more exposition on Negan as he's traveling back to the sanctuary. Nothing much is going on here other than showcasing just how sheltered the once feared leader is. Once the group returns to the hilltop, it is revealed to the community that their chill leader with the glorious man bun is dead, and then Lydia is swiftly tossed in a cell next to Henry. Gee, I wonder where this is going to go next. After more Negan exposition, we cut to Alden and Luke in the midst of a budding bromance. Alden confirms to us comic readers that there will indeed be a fair for all of the communities. Back at the hilltop, Lydia is being interrogated by Daryl, Michonne, and Tara about the people she was with. Obviously, Lydia is very vague on her answers, leaving our trio to leave in frustration. Michonne tells Tara that she is heading back to Alexandria to pass on the warning about the Whisperers to her people. All 5 of them. Back in sickbay, Eugene is fixed up by Sadiq to then be left alone with Rosita. What a surprise to absolutely no one. Eugene professes his love for Rosita, and god damn it, he is tired of playing games. Seriously though, why in the hell did the writers decide after all these years that they have been acquainted, now is the time for Eugene to be utterly head over heels for Rosita? There has been absolutely no indication that he has had feelings for her this whole entire time. Besides, I am the one who is willing to take that human puppy home. What, are you insinuating that I have an unquenchable thirst for Eugene Porter? Can confirm. After pushing Eugene back into the friend zone for the second time, Rosita is left tossing her cookies just outside his window. Oh no. Please, for the love of God, don't tell me this is going where I think it's going. Yep! As it turns out, Rosita and Sadiq fooled around prior to her hooking up with Father Gabriel, and now the newly proclaimed queen thought of the zombie apocalypse is now pregnant with Sadiq's child. It just baffles me that after making so many drastic changes from the source material, now is the time to adapt every comic storyline into the show with no remixing. I can't believe that I am actually saying this, given the fact that I absolutely hated this subplot. But Kirkman wrote Rosita's baby mama arc better than the show. To give some context, in the comic, Rosita did hook up with Eugene during the 2-year time skip after All Out War. The end result is still the same, with her sleeping with Sadiq and becoming pregnant with his child, but this all transpired organically. There were close ties that had been forged between Eugene and Rosita after Abraham dumped her and his subsequent death, so it made sense for these two to end up in a serious relationship together. Also, it made sense for Rosita and Sadiq to consummate, given that they were both working together and herding the walkers away from Alexandria. In the show, there was no buildup of Eugene and Rosita's relationship, and their interactions appeared more like siblings that could not get along with each other, as opposed to friends who grew closer after much hardship. Also, it makes absolutely no sense for Rosita to still hook up with Sadiq. There was no interaction between them and no indication that they were in situations that required communication. This to me is just another example of the long time jump being used to excuse any cheap plot contrivances executed in the writer's room. But I digress. Negan finally returns home to the sanctuary only to find out that there is nothing there for him, so he decides to leave. Again, nothing of real substance going on here. After loading up the truck for Michonne, there is a conversation between Aaron and her over what I can only guess was something that transpired between the time of Rick's quote-unquote death up until now. At least it's what I think is going on here. Otherwise, we have another case of jumbled, clunky dialogue which the writers have been notorious for including these past 2-3 seasons. Thanks, Gimple. Michonne then tells Daryl that the people of the hilltop need him, even though Tara is supposed to be the head honcho. Well, I guess this means that the quirky yet unlucky in the love department lesbian leader will be in over her head, quite literally. As the hilltop is burying Jesus, Daryl presses Lydia for more answers. She tells him that the Whisperers blend in with the Walkers and that her mother is still out there. Once the interrogation is done with, there is a bonding moment between Henry and Lydia, much to the chagrin of yours truly. Keep this in mind as I will be getting back to this in a separate video. Negan, I can only assume, is heading back to Alexandria into one of the worst confrontations that has ever been brought to television. For some unknown, completely contrived reason, Judith somehow knew that Negan was just traveling down this road and she manages to shoot at him with a gun that could completely knock her on her ass trying to handle. Honestly, I could care less about this scene. There is absolutely no point to it. We already knew that there was nothing back at the sanctuary for Negan and that he was probably going back to Alexandria. Did we really need this moment between him and Little Miss Cousin Oliver? As Alden and Luke are scavenging for their friends, they are then trapped by the Whisperers, where we get our introduction to Alpha, and that's where the episode ends. Now I will outline what I did like about this episode. The interrogation scenes with Lydia held my interest. Cassidy McClincy is terrific in the role as Lydia. She brings an added emotional depth to the character, unlike the emotionless plank of wood her comic counterpart is. She is a fantastic new addition to the series. I really liked her in Castle Rock, so it's no surprise that she would wow me. Nadia Hilker is continuing to impress me as Magna, a character that far exceeds her comic counterpart if you ask me. I was somewhat intrigued with Negan's journey back to the sanctuary, but I feel that there were far more unnecessary moments thrown in to build his arc, like that abysmal scene with Judith toward the end of the episode. Overall, I think this episode is mediocre at best. I understand that the writers are needing to set up what's to happen in the next major story arc, but man, they are taking their sweet-ass time in doing so. Taking their sweet-ass time so much that I found myself tuning out most of the episode with the exception of the Lydia interrogation scenes and Rosita's pregnancy reveal, mainly because my favorite character is involved in this subplot. Will the next episode pick up and suck me right back into its grasp? I can only hope so. And that's the conclusion to my recap and review of the mid-season premiere. If you would like to share your thoughts, please feel free to share a comment below. And thanks for watching. Until next time, this is Cynical Lindsay, signing off.